Admonitions, epilepsy, warning, flashing lights, clustered dissonant and atmospheric sounds, harsh dispositions, and potentially harmful thinking ahead. I do not claim to be healthy. I can be incidentally unhealthy, but I remain honest about it. Again, viewer awareness is advised. A void remains a void because it is a void, thus says indubitable reasoning. But the universe does not care, and will just be anyway. Welcome to the nature of reality. Depending on what we shall call reality, contradiction is its essence, at least according to the narrative of logic. To know is a silent satisfaction or horrific objection. There is no glory in it, no pride, no passion, no room for love or hate. It is the priceless, spontaneous, random, unique, ambiguous, indefinite, moving instance of now, beyond the direct description of words, aside from the domain of belief. But the mind, ego, will try to substitute it for the presupposition of function. It thinks intelligence has something to do with it. Stupidity, beauty, ugliness, strength, weakness, deserve, etc. Even bad, good, right, wrong, correct, incorrect, truth. All of these words are under superficial themes of its judgment and prerogatives. Propaganda, in other words, to try and convince us that seeing isn't seeing, that thinking of knowing is knowing. But it doesn't understand in its trying to understand. That consciousness is the box. You cannot know outside of it. That words too are just words ultimately, just placeholders, self-referential feedback loops provoking emotion, for motivation and regulation to navigate the environment for the sake of legacy and survival. It works in unconsciousness, so that unconsciousness can maintain itself. As soon as awareness shines in its no awareness, there is no wrong or right in this, but that is what it is. I merely choose and am forced to pick desire over compulsion. But are we the forced or the force? Neither. Though rationality doesn't like contradiction, it will always be saddened by the world without its projection. It is never the cause, however. I cannot be hypocritical or wrong in an entirely illogical world. I cannot be right either. I just choose and am forced to feed my guttural desire. There's no purpose in it, but that is okay. Because the point is the point. There is an incidental, metaphorical, literal, metaphysical joke for you. The point cannot be described other than through itself. Thus consciousness is the same. Do you understand now? Or are you still clinging to the thoughts, as if something they were saying was important? Even this I do not claim to be important. I will let go of everything I have said, because I do not believe the words are more than just the words. Ultimately, they indeed, like consciousness, are a world of their own, neither directly describable by any one moment of consciousness, and you can live in that world. I will not stop you even if I could, because I want you to come to this world on your own. Now, aside from this, I will clarify that function is an assertion. Consciousness on its own is not a function, but the mind doesn't understand seeing for seeing and tries to say what seeing is without actually just seeing. Optimism and pessimism are both sides of the same coin. Of judgment, when we let go, we can see. Is neither light or dark. It just is the ambiguous, indefinite, spontaneous, random, unique, timeless space of now. It is neither finite or infinite but indefinite. It is causeless and therefore random. It is beyond words, so the words must fall to see it. Time is the arbitrary measurement of movement, but the movement is also indefinite. So the box ultimately can be seen as either two worlds. So they work with substitutions, but that's all they are. So the box of inaccessibility is also consciousness or the realm of ego from either point of view, until the convergence happens. But it doesn't, it's more like conversion, where you cannot know words beyond words, you cannot know consciousness beyond consciousness. They simply overlay each other, but are not each other. So if the box context reached beyond itself, then that becomes a part of it. Thus the box of inaccessibility remains, but it is also accessible in other ways. Thus the contradiction logic the mind I see. But we do not have to obey it like the universe, which will just be. Despite the indubitable statement, a void remains a void because it is a void. We can just be too indefinitely. I do not claim to be thought-free or have no attachments. This channel expresses plenty of my pessimistic bias against life and the human race. I will express that every now and then, but I will see it as such. I am on varying levels of consciousness and mind-eye. I do not think life is mostly pain or pleasure. I do think that pain is prioritized and being avoided more so than pleasure is sought out. Ultimately, the act of procreation is aggressive as is taking a life. So I do not believe you can do either without some ego, unless it's just incidental. But it's hard to say it is, when we know the consequences of sex unlike the other animals, and you can feel incidentally sad or happy, but to go after either one requires deliberation. So don't suppress the thoughts and emotions. Ride them out and move on, for you cannot lose in a game you choose not to play. Even though some players will try and convince you of that, they are the shadow boxer's straw manner, claiming victory over someone who doesn't attempt to play. Not that I never do or that you can't or that it's right or wrong. Some people are that narrow-minded, though it's all they care about inventing their win scenario because it depends on the game you're playing, which is inherently arbitrary. So don't try to cling to thoughts or defend your honor. All of that will just push you further into unconsciousness cognitive feedback loops. Peace. Don't try to remember, let go, and forget fears of the unknown, the what if that keeps it all running. Do not be too afraid to die, just as not to be too afraid to live. Do not be too afraid to unlearn everything you have learned from education, heritage, or other. But it's okay to imagine, because imagination can cause enjoyment. But like with everything, it can turn compulsive, and you can be compulsive over being compulsive, for its ambition and sake of legacy. Imagining letting go can lead to relief, which can then lead to understanding. You need direct action of it, thus is the how of my words to assist in that, as placeholders for your imagination, to precipitate the cascade unfolding unto understanding incarnate. If I am or you are just convincing yourself, don't worry about it, because that will ironically or not just cause more of what you are afraid of. I am an honest thinker in the sense that I hardly filter my thoughts or try to think, the words just come. I never said I was a good writer or truthful thinker, but I do not believe I am a bad writer or erroneous thinker. Nor do I believe that the dichotomy is feasible either way. Nor will I be compelled to prove or disprove my innocence, or my monstrosity or hypocrisy. I do not believe either states are feasible anyway, not just in me but everyone. I do not think there is craziness or sanity ultimately, or evil or good. I am a nihilist in that regard, if you were going to call it anything, and I do not believe that is bad or good. A nihilist with pessimistic biases, occasionally expressed. As for whether you will accuse me of pretending, I do not have to try and prove or disprove it. I will let the subjugations fall. You are free to believe whatever is to thy heart's content. I will not stop it, even if I could, because in force there is no learning from the force, and the forcer is held liable for the forcing. So I will forfeit all fee or attacks or gains, but believe if you wish otherwise. If I am to be tortured, I will be tortured for who I am and not what. But I will never be a victim or persecutor. I will never be safe or in danger, for I am the ambiguous instance of now, and I am not always or sometimes that, but I am indefinitely it. I do not speak with passion to compel, but with wisdom to understand. That is how I write in prose, not poetry, but I don't mind an incidental rhyme, just as I do not mind an incidental joy. I am not supposed to be doing anything, no responsibility, no deliberation, no direct joy, only indirectly, incidentally, same with all else, thought and emotion-wise. And if I become repetitious, it's because, like with anything guttural, I do not do it only once. I want more until there is no more to be. I write simply to be understood. If I am complicated, I will do what I can to let it go. I do not seek to confuse. If you have made it this far, I am pleased, not that you have to like it. I would have done it anyways, but your giving is always appreciated, nonetheless incidental, deliberate or not. Even if I am to be compelled, that will not be honest. I am not brave or cowardly either. I am the ambiguous, indefinite, spontaneous, random, unique, timeless, priceless instance of now. So if you wish to attack me for what I say, I will not try to stop you, because who I am can never be touched truly. They don't know how to deal with what I say, so I am the easier target. I will let that go too. I am ultimately not the wolf one or the lost. These words were just another spinning of narrative you do not have to take for granted. For I am the ambiguous, indefinite, spontaneous, random, unique, timeless, priceless instance of now, beyond the direct description of words. We ultimately do not have to agree, because to do so, to make that an imperative, would be to say these things are important and I will not, because I do not believe it. So to have is not the same as trying to prove I can have a feeling and not act on it. I do not have to prove it to you, nor will I claim to have no feelings, despite how you may assume. You do not have to like me, and if you do, I do not mind it and appreciate it, but will let it all go.